say SuperWorld's a virtual world mapped on top of Earth, a virtual world with avatars, kind of like a game. It's an overlay on top of the real world, and it is the real world.
We're here at Beyond Founders at the South Summit Madrid, and we're really lucky to have here an amazing founder called Hrish.
We allow you as a user to be able to own a location, basically now become, a stakeholder in that location. And that's a very interesting lock-in because people can come in and have these locations. They can sell those locations. And to be clear, there's no limit on what anyone can do. You own a location, you benefit from everything that happens at that location. And so you can become a partner in lots of things happening in real world locations. You can become a collaborator.
We're here at Beyond Founders at the South Summit Madrid. This is June 2025, and we're really lucky to have here an amazing founder called Hrish. So, Hrish, really nice having you on today. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. It's really always great to be at South Summit. So much energy. So.
Amazing. I'm really happy to share that we had a panel earlier today. And now we are able to do a bit of a deep dive in SuperWorld. And yes, can't wait to get started and ask you a bit about your journey. So,
Here.
Rich, so you've lived and worked all around the world. You are a bit of a digital nomad as well. You have been in Wall Street, Silicon Valley, etc. How do all these places compare, and how did they shape your vision for SuperWorld?
Yeah, I live every year now in different cities and been living around the world for a very long time. And part of that is a real passion for cultures and languages, and is a real deep appreciation for learning how people live around the world and what they value, and to kind of go through life learning about those things and experiencing those things. So it's something at the core of how kind of started my whole life, to be frank. And I think that what we're building at Superworld is a way for people to share their stories and to be able to create content in real world locations, to be able to enable anyone to discover and learn about the world around them, and to be able to monetize using technologies like immersive tech, Web3, and AI. So it really kind of encapsulates what we've been building and the journey I've been on through my life, and it really comes together in Superworld. And so for me, it's a dream to be able to build a platform that I'm especially excited about, and that allows, whether it's a digital nomad or someone who loves their place, wherever that is, to be able to express themselves fully.
Definitely. Well, that's really interesting. And so SuperWorld is not just a metaverse platform. It is the position between Web 2 and Web 3, right? So how do you see that redefining the current space?
Yeah. A lot of people, when they hear the word virtual world, I always say Superworld's a virtual world mapped on top of Earth. One of the things that they think is, oh wait, that's a metaverse, right? And the word metaverse is sometimes a little nebulous, because when people think of the word metaverse, they think of a virtual world with avatars, kind of like a game, right? And Superworld is quite different. So Superworld is here. We're in it right now. It's all around us, right? It's an overlay on top of the real world, and it is the real world, right? It's about real places. It's about real businesses. It's about your favorite coffee shop or restaurant, or it's about that place you go on vacation. It's about places in the real world that you want people to see, right? And so once you kind of break through that idea of what is Superworld and understand what we are, I think a way to think about what we're doing is we're like a Google map. We're actually built on Google Maps, right? And it's an easy way for anyone to enter these technologies. Because a lot of people are like, you know what? I want to do immersive tech. How do I do that? How do I get into AR and VR? Even as a creator, right? People create videos and photos. They're like, how do I create AR and VR, right? Well, anyone can do that in SuperWorld. You can just upload files right to SuperWorld, right? See these real world locations. You can get into Web3 really easily. Just upload your Google Map. Everyone uses Google Map. Just upload your Google Map. Or, in terms of AI, we have SuperWorld AI. We're built on Llama. And so you can, again, come into SuperWorld and ask SuperWorld questions about the world around you. And so our idea is, how can we make it easy for anyone to get into all of these technologies and do it in a way that's enhancing your real life? And then collectively, how do we build a platform that allows us all to positively impact the real world and humanity? I always say the world needs Superworld. It's like the world needs Superman or Superwoman. The world needs Super.
Definitely. So I'm interested in knowing, in terms of like the real use cases and onboarding people, for people and users that this concept might seem foreign on Web 2, Web 3. How do I onboard all these people? Do you have any initiatives like together with universities? Like how do you go about educating the people about Superworld, and what does that look like in practice?
Yeah, so I think the way to think about Superworld, just as again, a very foundational, easy way to understand what Superworld is. It's a map. So we all use maps, right? Whether you're an individual who's trying to locate a place to go, or is trying to understand what's happening, right? We all use maps. A lot of us use Google Maps, right? And so, I think first of all, just anyone can create a map in Superworld and start adding locations onto the map. Now, our kind of go to market is in several categories. So the first go to market is travel. And that really comes from the fact that, I love to travel, and there's a lot of people out there who, love discovering places, right? And if you go online right now and you try to say, what's the best place to eat tapas in Madrid, you're gonna find a lot of results. And a lot of those results are gonna be based on what's the most popular place that like maybe all the tourists go to, right? But if you ask a local, they might tell you, look, that's the most popular place, but where you really should go is this place, right? And that's how I find information. So that's the first kind of use case for us, is enabling anyone who's an aficionado or someone who lives in a city to be able to go in and just start adding, just like you do on your Google Map. You can upload your Google Map, or you can come to Superworld and start starring your locations. So that's very grassroots. So going out to individuals, nomads, influencers to be able to do that. Now, the second category is real world assets. And so in blockchain and Web3, the ability to visualize a piece of real estate as an example and to invest in that fractionally is a very awesome use case, because you can bring investors into physical real estate you own, and you can unlock liquidity anywhere in the world because you're bringing in the ability for people to invest. And so that could be put on a map. So we've partnered with companies like TokenVest, which is out of Dubai. That's actually the first company that's gotten VARA approval for tokenization of digital assets. They're a partner. They'll have a world in Superworld. We partnered with Magma, which is a company out of Paris and Miami that does digital twins of real world locations, of businesses, of buildings, of real estate, that you can then, add service providers to that. You can create a 3D operating model or structure for any building. So they have a world in Superworld. So what we're doing is enabling, world builders to come in and build on top of Superworld by creating a map. The third category is depend. And so how can you add physical nodes or physical experiences that people can access digitally? So as an example of a very interesting partnership, Sports Illustrated has a world in SuperWorld. It's probably one of the biggest sports brands in the world. They've added 250,000 events to SuperWorld, everything from F1 to the Super Bowl to the Olympics. It's in SuperWorld. And you can go to a real location, buy a ticket to a real games or a real event, a physical event I'm going to. But if you're a fan of Broadway in New York, right, you buy that location, and now you're earning from my going to a real event and buying a ticket in Superworld. So now you're a stakeholder in that real world location that's selling tickets to a real world thing, but you've bought digital virtual real estate in SuperWorld,
Wow,
right?
that's incredibly exciting. So you're basically one incentivizing the way people are gonna start using maps and using SuperWorld
Yeah.
in terms of this, and also you're gonna revolutionize like how businesses are working, right? So let's do a bit of a deep dive on the fast use case that you were talking about. So the maps and traveling and everything. So we have seen that Google Maps, for example, has risen in popularity and people starting to map and pin like all the different locations that they love to then share them like with friends as well. I am one of them myself. So I know that there's an app that existed called Mapster that was in France and people were like crazy, were raving about it. But what we didn't really see is that like people in the long term or long run, yeah, utilize this in the end. So how going back to incentivization. So how do we incentivize users to use a platform and then stay?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a lot of maps out there. I mean, I think Google Maps, Apple Maps, Bing Maps. There's a variety of mapping software. Mapping is ubiquitous, right? And I think what we're building at SuperWorld is a way for our stakeholders, our users, to become stakeholders. So, in Google Maps, or I'm sure Mapster, or any of these applications, you can't buy neighborhoods that you love. You can't buy locations that you love. Just they're not decentralized. And so what we've been doing it for 8 years. Is a concept that's very interesting in the sense that we allow you as a user to be able to own a location and basically now become a stakeholder in that location, and that's a very interesting lock-in because people can come in and have these locations. They can sell those locations. And to be clear, there's no limit on what anyone can do. So just because I bought La Nave or you bought the La Nave, it doesn't mean that South Summit can't do anything in this. So they're totally free to do whatever. You own a location, you benefit from everything that happens at that location. And so you can become a partner in lots of things happening in real world locations. You can become a collaborator, right? And so influencers, as an example, are always looking for, hey, how can I collab with all these businesses? Well, in Superworld, they can quickly collab with anyone. Virtual real estate's one way of doing that. But then they also can create a world. And creating a world is interesting because additionally, it is now a filter on Earth that also has decentralized components to it. So now you have your own filter on Earth. And so if you're a business owner, now you could say, hey, you know what? You're interested in our business. Well, check out what we're doing in New York. But you don't have any physical infrastructure in New York, but now you do. Now you could build things in Superworld all over the world. You have the ability to bring a customer into your world. Your world isn't just an Instagram profile.
Yeah.
It is a way for you to project your message to anywhere, whether you're an artist, you're a brand, whether you're a not-for-profit. We've had tribes in the Amazon. This shocked me. Use Superworld to create digital art in the Amazon jungle, so people could look on the map and see where deforestation is occurring and be able to learn about that and to donate to causes to the Amazon rainforest and to be very involved with what's happening there on the ground. And so, I think that the ability to bring in users, make them stakeholders, do it in a way that's decentralized across not just location, but across Earth. And then finally, we're launching a token.
All right.
Yeah, and that token is going to enable the ability to incentivize and reward physical and digital interaction. And so if you've heard of the game Pokemon Go,
Of
right,
course.
where you had people running around looking for Pokemon and you had hordes of people running somewhere, right? That's an idea of digital interaction, but in a physical place. But what if you could enable anyone to create their own Pokemon Go, and that's what SuperWorld, originated from. But if you add that to tokenization, now what we can do is incentivize and reward check-ins to a physical location. We can reward interactions digitally with your map, right? We can allow me to become a stakeholder in commerce that is happening, whether at a business or imagine this, if you want to help fund a not-profit that's in a location because you believe that they should rebuild that park, you can now quickly create a way to, again, bring attention and capital using blockchain to a certain initiative that you support. So there's a lot of things that we're working on, but I think it's super exciting because it's taking mapping,
Yeah.
which is a fundamental thing, and really kind of taking it to that next level.
Right. Well, that's incredibly insightful. Very, very useful to know. So, well, founders, discoverers, conquerors, etc., have been using maps for the longest of times, right? Like ever since like we had like a use of reason, we could travel, we could use the maps and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a complete game changer. So now, although you have gotten a bit ahead of me in terms of the question, so you are talking about building a better world thanks to a super world.
Yeah.
So how does that look tangibly in 5 years' time? Looking at the future, where do we see the maps from the past, from the present, and what is happening in the future? And also, to be very, very interested to know which geographical locations are you focusing on first?
Yeah, yeah. I think that the a lot of people ask me, so okay, I get it, the super world, you're building a world, but how do you make the world a better place by building a platform like this, right? The question always comes up. And I think again, we go back to this map layer, right? Where anyone can build their own map. So if you're a not-for-profit, if you are a company that has an impact mission, well, you can build a map, right? And as an example, there's a company called Green Zone, and they do recycling and they do beach cleanups in Texas, right? And so if I go into their world, I can see the beaches before they did the cleanup, and I could see the beaches after they do the cleanup. It's like, wow, these guys are actually doing something, and I can see the before and after from what they do. I can locate where their recycling centers are. I can click and interact digitally with their recycling centers, even if I'm not there. If I believe in that mission, I could click and donate and get involved in their mission, right? And so what it allows us to do, and I gave you kind of the business example or the tourism example, but if you're talking about making the world a better place, what if you could enable people to have empathy to the world around them and to be able to, understand what's happening all the way on the other side of the world, because maybe you could do that immersively, right? And they called virtual reality the empathy machine because it allows you to experience things. And, fortunately, we're building across immersive tech like VR and AR, Web3 and AI. So the immersive side of that allows you to experience things and really kind of get to know environments before you get there, or maybe you are there and you can experience them and learn about them as well. And then again, as I said, the Web3 part is very interesting because it allows people to become stakeholders and to really be able to, again, have a connection to their community. And then AI is really speeding all that up. So I'd say over the next 5 years, I think what I'm really excited about is that some of the things that we're talking about in terms of, mission-oriented companies creating maps, I think we're going to see a lot more of that happening in Superworld. And as, Web3 and AI and immersive tech get a lot more, easy to onboard onto, which is our goal.
And converging as well.
A very, cheaper price point for headsets or even, just your phone, right? We're going to see a lot of those companies start adopting these technologies, and we're leading the way and making it really easy. Back to Web 2 to Web 3, just to create a map. That's all it is.
There's definitely setting a standard here. So from my point of view, this is an incredibly powerful platform. I think that like everyone should be starting to interact with metaverse technologies, having a bit of an understanding of how things work. I think that personally that universities play a really big role as well as schools. Although many things are moving now towards like metaverse and like online education as well. So how do you see the online education path like for future generations?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have 2 kids and, we live around the world, and so, we get to see a lot of different educational systems and schools and I'm constantly, reading. I love reading and, I, think a lot about how I think education in the future is gonna change. We're in an age where information is very accessible. Artificial intelligence has made that very easily navigable. All of this information, you have access to, you know, the smartest person in the world right in your fingertips there, in your phone, and or in SuperWorld, and so I think that I think that in the future, you're gonna have to, figure out what it is that you want to do, because fortunately, I think over the next 5 to 10 years, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities that are going to open up for everyone. Doesn't matter what you do, because as AI infiltrates every part of our lives, whether you're getting stronger and healthier, because you're now able to take some medicines or have some therapies that are going to make you younger, and you're gonna again have a lot more time because there's gonna be robotics and autonomous vehicles and drones flying us around, and you're gonna be able to have the ability to see the world and do more around the world. And then in terms of work with agentic frameworks, like we're integrating with Superworld, there's agents now. You're going to have a workforce for you that's, almost free, that can do all the things that you normally would do. And if smarter than anyone else who's doing those things. And so I think as this stuff happens, in terms of education, you're gonna, figure out, what is it that you're interested in learning. And it could be, art history, it could be that you're wanting to create a business or an idea, right? I think ultimately we're all artists, we're all creators, right? And whatever it is that you create, that's going to be much more easier to create those things, whatever that is, your dream.
Yeah.
And so education's going to transform because we have access to all of these tools, and whether you have to go and do this kind of traditional process, which again has an historical underpinning to it of working in a factory or being an employee at a large organization. I think in the future you're going to be, you're going to be a freelancer, able to work on lots of things, whatever your passions are. And I think education is gonna have to adapt to that. And so I think we're gonna see a very global educational framework. I think you're gonna have access to the best teachers for whatever subject you want. And more than that, I think the information is going to much more rapidly be incorporated, whether it's through an external device or a device that's more of an implant. I think I heard a really great quote the other day. I think Elon Musk stated this on Twitter. The monkeys are all already aware of the singularities, right? And because they're doing Neuralink already in monkeys, and so they're already kind of in this kind of connection. And whether you're excited about that or not excited about that, and I'm more into the physical world. I think that technology is changing how we think of everything. And, so I think education is gonna change drastically over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned because yeah, I'm definitely a fan of seeing how you can be more targeted with your education, especially according to an interest of or a gift that like a child can have from very, very early on. So we see lots of cases of interest driven education, which is very, very interesting. And so I want to close this amazing interview with a thought, you guys, which is basically what piece of advice would you give the future generations that are approaching platforms such as Superworld and any other metaverse technology
As they're approaching them, like as users or
as users and getting to know the tech,
Yep.
playing with the tech?
Yeah. I think that fortunately, the younger generation really understands these technologies. Again, I have younger kids, and they're talking to me about Roblox and Minecraft, and this is like some of the things they're passionate about. So they are, digital natives, and so they kind of naturally understand concepts like virtual real estate, or virtual tokens, digital currencies, whether it's Robux or other currencies that you're familiar with in the gaming side. And so I think that um, I think we got it covered for anyone who's under 8 and 9. Very much. I'm not worried about. I mean, those guys. I mean, I know because I hang out with a lot of little kids because my kids are little, and I talk to them about Superworld, and they tell their kids, their friends, about it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Superworld." They know it, and that's really cool, right? It's interesting. I think and I'd go a little bit further in terms of that generation. I think 15 to 35, they're at the cusp of some of this stuff. They grew up with the internet, and so they get it as well. I think some of them need to understand what Web3 is. It's funny. Every generation has this like drop off point. I remember my mom. Like she's using a mobile phone now, but that was something that was like kind of came later. But every generation kind of drops somewhere. And I think Web3 is one of those where there was a break off point there. And I think with Bitcoin and other these meme coins and gaming and all these things, this is drawing in users there into that. And then the older generation, above 40, let's say, um, that it's going to take some more kind of real world, whether it's, I have to do this using PayPal, or my bank now offers this. Those centralized platforms are getting people in. But I'd say my advice to any of these user groups, any of these demographics, is all of these things are here. They're moving fast. And if you're passionate about learning, which I think a lot of us are, is don't be intimidated. At Superworld, we're making it really easy for you to get in. So if you come to Superworld, just log in. It's really easy. You can use your Google or Facebook or Apple. Logins are really easy. You can use your email, and then upload your Google Map. I think I asked a group earlier, how many of you use Google Maps? Everyone raised their hand. Well, upload your Google Map. Now you're Web3. So what we want to do is make it really one step to get into Web3. And then from there, you build. You start adding things and kind of going further. So I think it's one step at a time.
Wow, that's amazing. So yes, we definitely see how UX is driving adoption nowadays. And yeah, we want to thank you, Hrish, for being here with us. And you guys definitely check out Superworld and play around with it. Yeah, the future is coming for us.
Thank you
very
so
much
much.
for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.